Hi, everybody, and welcome back to Checkmate the Matrix. We have another show here, and a great guest that we have is a guy called Sunny Gill, who is a farmer from Nottinghamshire. Is that correct?
Yes, that's right, Peter. Hi, everybody.
Brilliant. Okay. So, what we want to do is to have a chat with Sunny about what's been going on in the land of farming. I mean, the thing is, this is a very important topic, not just on the story that you're going to hear about Sunny and what's been going on with the planning and the council and the village councils and stuff like that, but also, in farming in general, because we know the background of a bit. I'm very rural. I go visiting all the farms in the area, having a look around, and can't see many crops growing. So it's an important topic and subject altogether. So anyway, Sunny, over to you. If you can give us a little bit of sort of like background, how you got into farming to start with, and then we'll just take it from there, okay?
Yeah. So it's kind of always been a bit of a dream to kind of go back and work with nature, be more connected to the earth. And, ultimately, you ask yourself a question, what are we working for? We're working to provide a roof over our heads and, eat good, nutritious food. So thought, why don't we kind of go right to the source, work to get our own bit of land where we could grow crops and keep some livestock. So yeah, it's always been a bit of a dream, and it's finally come around. Probably a little naive. We were kind of in dreamland, thinking it would all be a straight path, but unfortunately we've had many hurdles on the way, and we're still going through them at the moment. Which kind of, to be fair, it takes the kind of the love and the passion and the serenity out of the whole thing of working with land, and all you have to do is look around, like you just mentioned. You don't really see many fields full of crops. If you do, the kind of monocrop where farmers are just doing a whole field of a simple a wheat or a corn or what have you, and that's not really the way to go. But farmers are put in difficult positions. It's not as if the government, local councils make it easy. It's the contrary. They make it quite difficult, to be fair. So we've got a couple of jobs. Our day job is gas engineer, and my wife's a physio. We're doing that alongside the farming, and that kind of provides the basis for us to be able to do this. And the plan is to gently transition over into farming as a full-time, but at the moment we're having to juggle everything so we can make it work. We would have been a lot further down the line if it wasn't for spending money on nonsense. When I mean nonsense, I mean legal costs, fighting councils and solicitor fees and all that jazz. Yeah.
Okay, so just let's go back a bit there, just so everybody can get, sort of like the more gist of what's going on and what it all means, because I've never heard that before. You mentioned it the other day when I was chatting to you, and I made a mental note. I need to ask. So you said there about, like, if you've seen the fields and there's like crops growing in there, it would only be a monocrop. I mean, what does that actually mean to like a layman like me? Like, what do you mean by that?
So if a farmer has, let's use wheat for example, and I've got a very limited knowledge of the crop side of things, but if a farmer's growing just wheat, it's easy for them to blast a load of chemicals over there to keep all the creepy crawlies and everything away. Whereas if you're dealing with different crops and you're rotating them, and if it's done correctly, it's a lot harder. It takes a lot more effort, but the result is you don't have to use as many pesticides, and it's a lot easier for a farmer just to one large crop of wheat just go and spray it with the same fertilizer and chemicals. And the next year, the kind of soil is kind of raped of its nutrients, so he's got to go again with the same crop. If he wants to try a different crop, all the power's in the soil. So if it's constantly been blasted with the same chemicals, it's kind of just got used to running off of that. But the way forward is small, but through crop rotation.
Yeah, that's what I was actually just going to say. You know, if they were doing that and spraying all that fertilizer and pesticides on, you know, what would that be doing to the soil? So if you're doing, in other words, if you're doing a monocrop and you're using the same fertilizer, same actual chemicals that you've just said, then it's just going to ruin the soil, really, especially if you wanted to try and change it later on.
Yeah, that's right. And if you do want to try to change it, it's a lot of effort. It's a lot of effort in putting all the nitrogen back in the soil and all the nutrients you need. A lot of the effort is to get your soil right. If you get your soil right, your crop should be right.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's one of the worries, if that's the right way of putting it, you know, that I live sort of like on the coastline, but like literally, like, you know, half a mile in and it's farmland, and it's very rural where we live. Northumberland, all of Northumberland, a lot of it is green and farmland. But, you know, when I'm driving through the place now, I see very little crops growing.
Yeah.
And you think, what we're going to eat next year then? You know, it's kind of a big worry that way. But, I mean, you've said it's been a dream for you to get into farming. I mean, was it in sort of like the family or the history or anything like that before you actually started?
So our origins, my parents were from Punjab in India. So their families, the grandparents, the great-grandparents, they've always farmed. It's in our culture to farm. But I'm the only one for probably a couple of generations who's kind of had the courage to tackle it and take it on. But yeah, so my parents were quite happy with me.
All right, okay. So although you've actually taken sort of like the steps to get back into farming, so you've dived in there, but right, you've just said there that you've still having to actually do your own day job as well. Both of you?
Yes, both of us. And especially during lambing, it was relentless. It's pretty much just both of us. We've got the odd bit of hand here and there, but it's on both of our heads. So yeah, stress to say the least.
I can bet, you know. So you just mentioned there about the lambing. I know that we were having a brief chat that, you know, as we were building up to get you on the show. So explain a little bit, because you said that you're not like massively sort of like up on the crop side of it. So what is it that you're actually doing on your farm? And literally, what's your background in, well, your build up to farming, and what are you actually doing?
So currently we've got a few different breeds of sheep. So we're just trying to focus our attention on sheep farming for meat produce. We finally got into an organic shop last year, so some of the produce from last year has been in there. We're happy about that. So yeah, we're focusing all our attention just on sheep at the moment.
Okay. Now, this might seem a bit of an odd question, but it's only because, like, I used to live a little bit further inland a few years ago, and one of the fields that we had was dedicated to sheep. Right opposite, there was a farmer there, and it was a very specific breed of sheep, and that's all he had. I can't remember how many there was. It was maybe only about like 30, something like that, and they were all black, all of them. And apparently that's supposed to be pretty rare of this breed, and that's all that they actually did was use that breed. I mean, is that correct? Was I told the truth?
Yeah, I think, you know, you'll work with what you get used to working with. Different breeds present different issues. You know, for argument's sake, at the moment, we've got quite a few which have got foot issues because of the soil, because it's been raining that much, and we're actually live in a flood risk area. So I've got that to do actually on Saturday. We've got to sort all their feet out. But yeah, I think farmers, you get used to what you're working with. You get into a bit of a pattern, get into a rhythm. And, you know, even that, you can do the same thing year after year with the same stock, and you'll still get presented with new surprises and new things to deal with. So yeah, we've got three different breeds. Our first breed that we had was pretty straightforward, where they were a heritage breed, and they kind of self-lamb to a degree. So you don't have to have that much involvement with it. But recently, this season, we've taken on some different breeds, and it's been completely different. I've had to get right in there.
Right. Okay. So I mean, like, when you're doing the lambing, for instance, I know that you did have a lot of work on, so you were like up like at different times and running around. You know, I mean, were you still like working at your engineering job then, or
no? During the lambing side, when we were lambing, it was 3 months of lambing. I had to just kind of put that work on hold, because you know you can juggle certain things around when you're not in those kind of stressful positions and times when they're lambing. So you know all your time's got to be dedicated towards that. You have to be there all the time. So no, the answer to that question was no. I'd be focusing just on lambing at that moment.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's got to be something else. I mean, I don't know even if I could actually cope with doing that. You know, obviously, when you're saying you got right in, I've seen it on the TV before years ago. You know, like you're literally having to help pull the baby out, then pull the little lamb out.
Yeah. So there's I think about 14 or 15 mums that I had to go physically in and pull the baby out. You had a couple of breaches, so you've got to go in and kind of feel if they're coming out backwards or forwards. They're kind of supposed to dive out forward with both feet and the head, and if they come out backwards, that can present many issues. We had one which was an incredibly difficult birth, and unfortunately, when that lamb had come out, it had a deformity on its feet, so that one had to get put to sleep pretty much immediately. We had a C-section. The vet came out; he couldn't pull. Just as I was trying, so he had to eventually carry a C-section out. But yeah, sleep, there isn't, during lambing, you're just constantly on edge. Every couple of hours you're there, every hour. Yeah, and we've now got 3 caged orphan lambs. So when they first come through, I was feeding them every 2 hours through the night. I'm finally seeing the back of that now, so we just stopped to a couple of feeds a day now. But
wow.
Yeah, it's you know, it's a great experience, and a lot of people said like that. You know, I can't believe how you can, you know, just go in and do that. And I said, you got no choice. You just kind of put your big boy pants on and just get in there and just put everything aside and do what you've learned. And thankfully, I had a guy, Bob Shaw. He's a really helpful contact. He's been on the other side of the phone. Any questions I've got, I'll pick the phone up to him, and he's great support. It's really been, it's priceless having him there over the phone.
Brilliant. Well, congratulations and well done anyway. So, you know, if nothing else.
Yeah, we done well.
Yeah.
We done well.
And then, so like you've got the lambs, you're bringing the lambs up. I mean, you know, so do you actually take them through? What do you do? Take them through to a certain age and then you have to sell them on into the meat trade, or do you keep a certain amount because you want them for the next year, or what?
Yeah, both. Spot on there, Peter, with both of them. So we're ethical farming. We try to carry out ethical farming. So we'll build our stock numbers over the seasons, as opposed to, you know, some farmer might be able to go out and just go and buy 100, 200, 300. We're gradually bringing those numbers up year by year. Yeah, so that's where we are at the moment with it. Sorry, I just slipped my mind with your question. What was it you asked again?
Just so, like, how many of them would you actually be, the lambs, would you be passing on to the meat trade, right, and how many would you actually keep to build up your numbers?
So most of the boys will go, and most of the girls will keep. So about 50-50. It's currently, figures come out at the moment around 50-50. So we've got nearest, damn it, 100, probably about 98. So out of them, I'd probably get, out of the lambs, probably about 30 would go. 30 boys would go, and then the rest of them we'd keep, so we can use them for the following season.
Okay, so that was going to be my next question about, like, the boys and girls, because obviously if you want to continue the lambing, then you're going to have to keep more girls to give birth, obviously.
That's now, right.
Do you bring in, or do you mix with other farms to, like, for the males to meet the females, or have you got your own males that'll actually?
Yeah, we've got our own. We've got our own males. So we can't use the same male for the next season, because obviously that's his offspring. So you have to swap sometimes with other farmers and bring in other males when you need it.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. You know, you couldn't keep them in the same sort of, like, family group that way, could you? You'd have to keep mixing it up. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So it's better off than being a female if you're coming in as a lamb, because if you're the boy, then it's gonna be, you know.
Yeah. You know? I'm afraid. Okay. I'm afraid so.
Right. Okay. So anyway, now, this is why we've been sort of, like, chatting more, is because of, like, what you mentioned earlier. There is the legal side, the hindrances that have been handed to you, kind of thing, that you would have been far more down the line and getting sort of, like, established and set up correctly if you hadn't have had this, like, side attack, if you want to call it, with these legal problems and the hassles in there, you know. So let's move on to that bit now and sort of, like, give a background of what's happened and what's kind of sort of, like, you know, come along and stuck a spur in the wheel, as it is.
So it was during COVID. It was during that time you couldn't get hold of councils. Everything was kind of difficult to get hold of people. Everything was in a world of nonsense. So we erected a building that we believe, and still to this day, we still believe it's within curtilage of the property. Nobody's identified the curtilage. So even to this day, so we still believe when we constructed it, it was within curtilage. Our neighbour decided they don't like us anymore for whatever reason. We won't go into that. And they called the council to say that we've put a barn up. Council got involved, and it all started from there on. So they said we needed planning for it. We were like, okay, no problem. We thought based on what our architect told us, it was within curtilage. So we applied for planning, done the retrospective, do everything that, the council asked for us, off of us. We told them we need them for our sheep. The sheep have got nowhere else to stay. They declined our application. And one of them said that we could keep our livestock in with our farm machinery and fuel and fertilizers, which I found was kind of bizarre. We went to appeal the decision. The appeal lady came over I think it was July months. On her comment, objection was there were no sheep in the barn. She'd seen them all on the field. She'd walked on the field. She said, I didn't see any sheep in the barn, so, therefore I'm rejecting it. Peter, it was like 33 degrees heat. There was no reason for the sheep to be in the barn. The barn's there for lambing, illness, or whether we need to work on them, right? Or when we flood. We did flood as well. So that was that. And then from there on, the back and forth started with the council. They came over and they said, right, you're going to have to demolish it. They're putting enforcement on there. And we found that there's bats in there. Apparently they make you still take the building down, even though there's bats in there. And I said, listen, I'm not taking the building down until I've got somewhere safe to keep my sheep. Now, you've got to tell me where I can put this structure. They've pretty much said you can't put a barn up anywhere on all your land. So I said, what am I supposed to do with my sheep? Where am I supposed to keep them? No answer. Nothing whatsoever. So we tried for another application. They rejected that on a separate site, on a separate area. We then back to the current barn, tried to reapply on the same barn because apparently Bagshaws, who we're with at the moment, they said you can do that. We applied there. Their first refusal was they didn't like the look of it and they didn't believe we were sheep farming, even though all the sheep are here. So we said, okay, well, we've ticked that bit, we've ticked this bit. Now we're working with the aesthetics of it, the look of the building. So we can change that if that's what you want. Just tell us what you want, and we can try to work towards that. So we put forward some changes. We'd raise the roof, we'd put tin sheeting on it, we'd timber clad the whole building, we'd put some flood mitigation in there. Anything that you kind of want, which will change the appearance of it. And that was where they didn't speak to us for, I think it was like nearly 4 months. They hadn't replied to us. We ended up having to go to the local paper, and the council told the local paper that there was no changes made to the second application. And that was the bit that shocked me the most, Peter, because it's in black and white. You can see the old barn and the new barn. When you're looking at it, they're two completely different pictures. But they've not told that. They've not told us that. They've just rejected our application. First after telling us, to make the changes. So that's cost us again. We've got to put in, another planning application. After a bit of back and forth with them, we've not heard from them. And the next thing you hear from them is you get a letter of prosecution for the barn when they haven't told us when it needs to be taken down by. How are we going to deal with the bat scenario? And most importantly, where am I going to keep my livestock?
Mm-hmm.
So now Bagshaws are trying to communicate with them again. I don't know if they'll communicate. I wrote to the MP. I asked the MP to help. He said he'll try to, relay our concerns to the CEO of the council. Apparently he's done that, but now he's off through elections. So we're just kind of like, we're just hanging in the air, Peter. We don't know what to do. What's our next steps? We can't really move forward with what we'd like to do. So all we're doing is sustaining what we're currently doing in the hope that this building will stay. It's so effing confusing. And it's so difficult because your day jobs are hard enough. All we seem to do is just work. We're just constantly working. Even after I finish this, I've got to put my overalls on and get back out there. But, councils, governments, they should be helping with the situation we're in. If people don't learn how to produce their own food, if we don't learn and hand this down to children and grandchildren and so forth, we're going to end up with lab-produced meat.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So let's just go back a little bit for what you were actually talking about with the council. So you mentioned a word like curtilage. Did you say curtilage?
Yes, that's the area around the house. the land which is around the house. So you could call it like your garden area, your front and back gardens,
Right.
around the property.
So that's just showing, so like it's all within your own boundary then, type of thing.
Yes, before it reaches into the fields. So it's the area around your property before it reaches into greenbelt land.
Okay, so it's all within your own boundary then. Nothing's outside of your boundary.
No.
Okay.
Even the fields, they're all attached to our property as well.
So it's still all your property. Even the fields and the greenbelt fields are still your property anyway.
Correct. Yeah.
So, and then the neighbours have like rang up the council. Very nice of them. But then, was any of it on their land? Does it touch their land?
No.
So
No.
is it sort of like blocking view of their windows of the houses or anything like that?
Nothing.
So it's not interfering with their life, their house, their land, their whatever it is they want to do. It's interfering with nothing whatsoever.
Nothing whatsoever.
Okay. So they just thought it would be a good idea to go and create problems for somebody who's trying to actually create a living and help others in the community at the same time.
Yeah. A bit of background towards that, as I did say, I don't want to speak bad of people. And when we first moved into the place, there was like a multicoloured rug that we put up on a tree to dry. And the neighbour came up and he said, I hadn't been in here for a week. He says, you got to take that down. You're not allowed Rastafarian flags here. And I said to him, it's just the rug which is drying. So from there, you got the idea that they're not too comfortable with change and different people coming in.
Wow.
That's kind of shown its face over the years with comments, which is really hard to kind of just stand back and not do anything and allow the so-called law to do its process, and it hasn't. They've not helped either.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where we are. So I don't know, for whatever reason they've got a grudge. I can't change the colour of my skin, and that's who I am. I even sat in a parish council meeting and I said to all the parish members, we all bleed red. We're all identical, and I might as well have been speaking a different language. They looked at me and just went on to the next topic as if I didn't even say anything. So tough. And there is it's difficult when you come into villages, and I didn't think that because my mind doesn't work that way. My mind is, great, we're moving on with our life, we've got a good opportunity. I don't think that, are we going to fit in or not? Of course we should fit in. Why shouldn't we fit in? It doesn't even enter your head. But apparently people said to me afterwards, what did you expect when you moved to a village? I was like, well, I didn't expect that because I didn't think that far.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, I wouldn't have thought that way either. It's just that your mind is what your mind is.
Correct.
To me, like you just said, we all bleed red, so it doesn't matter what's on the outside. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's if you went and got, like, say, 5 jugs of water, and one was red, one was blue, one was black, one was white, and you filled it all with water, is the water inside different, or just because there's a color on the outside that's different?
Yeah, maybe when you're ready, you should come and have a word with my neighbours for me.
Yeah, exactly. But it's the same thing.
Madness.
It's like if you have a different colored jug, you got the water inside is the same. It tastes the same. It looks the same. It's H2O. It doesn't matter what the color it's held within.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, I know, and that's like I said, I didn't want to talk too much about that because people's ignorance you can't change. I wanted to just focus on how we can move forward with the barn. So yeah, I wanted to bring it to people's light because I think Jeremy Clarkson, what he's done with his show, although some people may like him or not like him, but he has brought attention to farmers and the difficulties they face. We've got an extra difficulty being, unfortunately, slightly not fitting in, but we've got the same difficulties as every other farmer out there, where people they don't help you, and there's so much work we put into this for very little monetary reward, but you do it because you love the animals, you care for them, you look after them. You know, it is sad when you've got to kind of disconnect yourself and you've got to send them off. But you know, while they're alive here, you take care of them in every best way that you possibly can.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, I mean, it's full on interactive farming. I mean, I don't really know anything about Jeremy Clarkson I don't watch television. So, is he doing a farming program? Is that what he does?
Yes, yeah, he's bought a farm. He's got a couple of seasons out on I don't know, was it Amazon or Netflix or one of them, and he's put some buildings out. The locals have kicked off, and he's had to go down, you know, routes that we've gone down. But he's actually got his building approved in this last season. So yeah, he's doing things what we're doing, but on a lot larger scale.
Right. Okay. I mean, the thing is, this is the ridiculousness of it. First of all, how anybody could say they've gone into a farm, they can see there's a farm building, there's a barn,
yeah,
and in the field over there's a load of sheep, but you're not, and a sunny day, but you're not a sheep farmer, and you know what are these, like elephants? You know, like, and this, what the barn is there, you know. Well, you know, do you want to go and get stuck into a room all day that in a hot day? No, you want to go out and enjoy the weather. You want to enjoy nature. I mean, I presume, you know, that's where they would be feeding when they're out to keep them healthy.
Yeah.
You know, and then if it's need shelter, or when it comes to lambing or they need treatment, then the same as we would do, you would go to a different building for it.
Correct. Yeah. And we live in a flood risk area. So we flooded, I think it was January, wasn't it? I think where we had all that heavy rain. So I had to bring them all inside. Thankfully, I had that barn there. And we've got all the pictures and videos to show everything. If I didn't have that barn, they'd be out there in water. And they've already got foot rot issues because it's still wet soil.
Well, that just makes sense, isn't it? You know, I mean, like anybody, ourselves or them, are going to be walking in damp conditions all the time, then you're going to end up with feet problems.
Of course. And it's honestly councils that have like rural councils which have a lot of land around them, and they're responsible for one of the things on the petition that I put out there as a kind of what I would like for to happen is that those councils which are responsible for rural areas, that they need to have an agricultural or a farming person in the council to, you know, tell them what's what, because most of these people, you know, they haven't got the first clue about farming, and they come in and they're the one dictating what I can and cannot do. But you know, I don't know, if you keep a dog, would you keep your dog outside in the rain constantly? No, you wouldn't. You know, sheep are very, very hardy. They're very strong. But, you know, there's a limit of what they can take. But just while I talked about the petition there, I wanted to say thank you. Because a few people have contacted me saying that it's the back of from your recommendation. So I just want, while I remember that, I just wanted to say thank you so much for Peter. It gave my wife and I such a good boost. We needed that. So thank you for that.
Well, you're more than welcome, and hopefully, you know, that is the petition still going? Can we still get more signatures?
Yeah, it's still going. It's still going. I think we're around 48,000 sign of natures. I remember that. So yeah, that's going well so far. It's slowed down a bit, but you know, I'm just hoping that enough people can see it. And, you know, someone can knock some sense into the council.
Yeah, I mean, you know, for sure. And I'll definitely be putting that out. And we'll put a link to the petition as well in the description, so people can go along and actually sign that as well. So that would be good. So fingers crossed that'll help as well.
Thank you.
I mean, the two things that spring to my mind, just on common sense, right? Just common sense and common decency, really, but definitely on common sense, is if you had said to the council, rang them up and say, look, council people, I've got this big building there. It's full of machinery. It's full of tractors. It's full of diesel fuel. I want to go stick my sheep in that. Is that okay? They would have definitely said no.
Yeah, and we would be the ones who are liable because we're the ones who are looking after the livestock. So if anything happens to them, you know, we had a private fire report, and the engineers who visited, they condemned that situation for us to put the livestock in with the tractors and fuel and whatnot. And the vets had come over, and they also said the same. So, you know, we've got their support, which was good. But I might as well, again, like to the council, it didn't really make any difference.
Well, unfortunately, with a lot of them, I call them, you know, Agnes in the office. You've got people there with absolutely no knowledge of the situation, no background, and no qualifications. I mean, in reality, if you're not, and to be honest, you don't need to be a farmer to know that you shouldn't put animals in with machinery and fuel.
Of course.
But, you know, if you've got no qualifications, then what right have you got to tell a farmer, right, what to do with their land, their animals, their barns and whatnot? It makes absolutely no sense.
And you know, you get into that state of mind that, all right, the council are coming over, they've got to tell us what's what, and we've got to listen to everything they say. But what if a lot of what they say is just garbage and it doesn't make any sense? You know, we're supposed to still carry on listening to them. You know, because if they had it their way, that building would have been down. I would have lost tens of thousands of pounds. And that's our hard-earned money that we've worked hard for and paid taxes on top of that. But another story. And, you know, I'd have to sell the sheep, and then we're just left with empty green fields doing nothing. I had two polytunnels, and they made me take my polytunnels down, saying that you need planning permission for the polytunnels. I had veg growing in them, so I had to take them down.
Wow, really?
A polytunnel. Can you believe that?
But you can put them up in your own back garden, though, and for no planning permission.
Well, I don't know whether there's a size issue or something, but, you know, as far as I knew, polytunnels, you don't need planning permission for them, but you do. So if anyone's watching who's got them, if it's of a certain size, just I don't know, do your own research and that. But
yeah, I'll have to check with that one definitely, because I mean, again, you know, we're in quite a rural area, and there's a lot of what would you call them, like allotments, you know, that people have got, and you can't move for polytunnels. So they've all got them. They're on every single bit of it.
Yeah, I think if it's got to be a size issue, but even that, it's still a removable object.
I was just going to say, it's not a permanent structure.
No, but according to them, yeah.
Poly, it's made of polythene and plastic.
Yeah,
you can take it down.
If I just cut a hole in it and made it open to the atmosphere, there you go. It's open now. Can we still keep it? But it's like you do all of this work and you still feel like a school kid being told off that you're doing something wrong. It's like, how is that? How is that even possible? I'm a grown ass man, you know, and still having to listen to this foolishness.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's the whole thing. Unfortunately, when you're dealing with legislation, because remember that this is all that you're dealing with is legislation. It's coming from people who have no idea, and you know, it's never law. So don't ever think that it's law. It's purely man-made laws, right, or man-made rules that they try and call laws, I should say, are just legislation that's made up, and they actually employ huge groups of people in these so-called governments, right, that make new legislation every day. There's thousands upon thousands of pieces of this new legislation, and none of it makes any sense and probably contradicts what they'd made up yesterday. It's all just made up nonsense. And I think now you can see, let's say it's a trend of attacking people like, you know, well, like yourself, that are trying to make an improvement in food, trying to actually provide food for a community and themselves, and making it better quality food. It's like, no, we're not having that. Let's get back to the garbage, and we can poison the soils and poison the foods and make sure that nobody gets any decent food going up in that food chain. I mean, is that how you see it from what you've been through?
Yeah. And, the more you look at it deeper, you try, part of you thinks, okay, is there something deeper going on here? Do they want us to just like live off peanuts and stuff, or factory made food? Because that's a thing that's been going about recently. I don't know. There's a lot of people who don't know about nutrition, and it seems like with all the social media and everything we've got, the knowledge should be easier. It should be easier to understand about eating good, clean produce. But I think there's that much out there, and a lot of it contradicts each other. But if you just stick to the basic premise of as closest to the earth, you want to eat your food as close as it is to the earth, not packaged, none of that business. But I think we got a fair way to go. But if people don't make the stand, where are we going to go? Like ourselves, a few people have said, like, look, just give in now. And I'm not going to lie, I've thought about it many times, because it's like, how many hits are you going to keep on taking? And you just feel so powerless. But I've watched a few videos of yourselves after we've made contact, and it does fill me with a bit more power, and give me that kind of nudge. And also knowing that I'm not alone, that people, just because we're doing this, just us guys, it doesn't mean that we haven't got support. It's really important to know that.
Well, that's, at the end of the day, nobody would blame you for like saying, well, I've had enough, I can't take any more hits. That is 100%, comprehensible. I can actually feel it, myself. But, what we'll do is we'll definitely push this out there. We'll share it. We'll send out the emails. We'll put it through for like on the channel, and I'll put it on the other channels, the Telegram channels and the Facebook channels as well, and try and push out so that there's, first of all, the petition. But there are a few other people that I know that are very clever on certain things with councils, certain things with planning permission, that when you're dealing in the legislation, and like I say, it's just purely legislation, not law, it's literally made up rules, but they're good at it because they know how to use it. So I'm going to certainly get you in touch with them. And another one that I want to touch on before we finish as well is about the bats. Yes. Because I also know someone who's very aligned and acknowledged and know what they're talking about when they're talking about nature, legislation, farming, and bats. So I'll definitely going to put you in touch with some people who hopefully can help as well. But it's actually stated point blank that if there are bats that are nesting in any type of building, even your own home, you can't touch them.
So what happened when there was evidence that there were bats in there? They've asked us to contact someone who could come out and carry out a bat survey to determine whether they are in there, and if so, what species. They're pipistrelle bats, we found out. Then with that information, you go to Natural England, and they provide you with a certificate, or like a kind of, you can continue with your project, so you can take the structure down, knowing that there's someone there to either keep the bats safe or transport them elsewhere. So, and that's all costs that we've got to pay for. So I've got to pay someone to do this, to take my own building down that I had to pay to put it up. So, they've come over, they've left their cameras set up for I think it was about a week or so. And then when they said that it would take them a couple of months, like 8 months or something, to get the certificate for whatever reason, I don't know why. The council then said, right, you'll have to go to another person and go and get a certificate from them. And I said, hold on, well, they've got to go and do all their due diligence as well. They've got to set up all their cameras again. That's going to be time and cost again, just because you don't want to wait for the certificate from the first person. So we were kind of left just hanging in the balance there. Because the first person was absolutely fine, but we didn't know that. And so many people that reached out to me emailed saying, if there's bats in there, you can't touch it. Well, apparently they can, I don't know how forcefully, but they tell you or make you go down the route of applying for this license so that the bats can be removed or the building can be taken down safely without injuring the bats.
Right, okay. Yeah, I do have like contacts with like a surveyor who's very well, he knows what he's doing about this type of thing. So, I'll definitely put you in touch with them.
Great.
And this is exactly what they do as well. And again, because it's tied in with the people that I know, the contacts that I have for the planning permission, how they work with the regulations. Because what we do find out, unfortunately, and it's just the way it is that all of the councils and all of the corporations actually will break every single rule in their own book, right, to get their own way if they have got a bee in the bonnet about something, which they seem to have with you. And it's just, we're going to do whatever we want and we're going to break all the rules that we've created so that we can get our own childish little way.
Honestly, it seems that way. We know that the neighbours knew somebody in the enforcement division in the council. So they were pushing and pulling and making life difficult for us. And even when that came to fruition and we found out through emails that they know someone in enforcement, that that enforcement officer was supposed to get off of our case. But there is still evidence, like 6 months down the line, that he was still trying to persuade the new officer in his favour. So, there's all that dirtiness going on there as well. But I don't know. I think he said now the council have got this kind of bee in their bonnet, as it were, that we're not going to stand down from this. From what I gather, don't quote me on this, but the next steps, if needed be, if we were going to take to court, is to go to High Court. Now, I don't want to go to High Court. We ain't got the money to go to High Court. But it shouldn't. I can't understand. It's a barn for the sheep. It's not as if we're building thousands of houses there. There was a concern that, okay, what if you're going to change it into something else? I was like, we'll put a condition on it that it can never be changed to anything else, that it can only be a home for sheep.
Yeah.
But they ignore that.
You're building a barn for animals, for sheep, on a farm, in a farming area, in rural England, out in the countryside where there's supposed to be farms and sheep and farmland.
Correct.
What a terrible thing to do.
Bad. So bad, isn't it, Peter? So bad.
Yeah.
I got to kind of laugh about it now because, we've cried enough. We've had enough hurt. And now it's just, like they say, when you roll with the punches, it's just become that way now. And but like I said, is being in touch with yourselves. It has given us the boost that we needed because we were so close to just sacking it in. And then we're like, what if we sack it in? Everyone whose lives that they make difficult, if everyone sacked it in, we'd all be under complete domination. So someone's got to stand up at some place, and if we all kind of stand together on it, we stand a chance. Because they're like just tyrants, just pushing their way through people.
Yeah, and anything so that they've got their own little sort of like village clique that you can't be different whatsoever, be it on culture or anything else, so that's it. They're sticking to their own little stuff, and that's just bang out of order. At the end of the day, all you're doing is what that land was meant to be done with. You're actually performing farming on a farmland.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, so I don't know what the next moves are. We'll wait to hear back. The lady at Bagshaw's is trying to contact the council again to see if you can arrange a meeting with one of them to come out to see what options are. One of them had the cheek to kind of sterilise all our land, saying you can't put a barn anywhere. It's like, not even temporary housing. You get the little temporary sheet shelters, not about them, but no, nothing apparently. And
well, just that shows the ridiculousness of it, and if anything needed to be proven that there was some kind of prejudice going on, then that has got to be it.
Yeah, and I don't want to think that way, though. I desperately don't want to think that way, but all these things keep popping up, and I'm like, do I just deny them then? But it seems more evident that that is the case.
Cool. So bad. Well, I tell you, I mean, what we'll do is, like I've said, we'll definitely put the links in, and you make sure you get me the links for the petition. Yeah. And we'll put that in the description of the video, and we'll be sending a video out not only on the podcast channel. We'll get it up on YouTube and Rumble, but I'll send it out on email. I'll put it up on Wistia as well. We'll send it out to the Telegram channels, the Facebook groups, etc. Yeah. And ask other people to share it and spread it wide. And if anybody knows of any other sort of like solutions or anything that can help Sunny whatsoever and his family that are trying the hardest to just do what's natural and farm some farmland, no, they're not doing anything weird or out of the ordinary. They're actually trying to have a farm on a farmland, the crime of it. So if anybody has any other suggestions or knows anything to help, get in touch and we'll get you together and, pass on any kind of help and recommendations or any contacts that anybody else has got that could maybe help this situation. Please send it to us. All right. And we'll make sure that Sunny and his family get your message passed on and get some assistance. So is there anything else that you want to say before we actually wrap up then, Sunny?
Yes. I did have one recommendation. I don't know if you know anything about it. They said for me to contact Land Registry and get is it an AP1 form or LP1 form, and change in there's a section where you write the local council have jurisdiction, because we kind of sit in Newark and Showa District Council in that demographic. But instead of writing their name, we put our own name or put it in our own trust's name. Then they don't have any jurisdiction over us. But I don't know, what that will bring back. I don't know. Is it feasible? Will that make it all go away? And can we just continue? Or do you know anything about that?
I do know a bit about the land registry, the TR1. I think I know what you mean by where you would actually put that in. That I will have to actually double check. And there is somebody that I do know that's got a farm as well. And so we'll not see anything on here. We'll have a chat after, okay. And speak to the other guy as well that I know he's been in a similar situation, to you. So I'll certainly get hold of him and put you in contact.
Great,
and see if that can help at all.
Yeah, and I just whoever's watching, thank you for obviously taking the time out. But if you or anybody who's fighting and of similar fights, just know that there's people out there to help and support. And don't fucking give up. Keep on fighting. Keep on fighting. And someone's got to do it. Let's go. Let's go.
Exactly. Yeah, good for you. Yeah. So listen up then, people. All right. Make sure that you share, pass it out to everyone, get yourself linked onto the petition, share it with everyone else as well to sign the petition. If anyone has any other ideas on what can be done, either about the planning permission, the BATs, or about anything else whatsoever, then just got to let us know and we'll pass all the information on to Sunny and his family. Thank you very much for watching. Take care, and we will see you next time. Okay.